Begin today the Gemara on the Tzadik Daled Amud Beis, 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, Amar Rav Huna. We're in the middle of a sugya that's discussing the whole story that happened with Sanhedrin that came during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, and he took 9 or 10 Shvatim into exile. And then he wanted to come and destroy the Beis HaMikdash and take from Yehuda also, and he had a big downfall. And we learned part of the story, and the Gemara here continues the story about Sanhedrin. Talk to Gemara, Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, Eser Masois Nosa Oiser Rashu Ba'isa Hayayim. On that day, when he came to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, he traveled 10 different places till he came to Yerushalayim. And the Gemara here brings the lashon that it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya about all of his travelings. And this is a few different psukim there. It says, Shanema, the pasuk says, Ba, he came al Ayis, Ovar b'migroin. That's the second place. And Lemichmosh, Yafkid Caleb, he came to Michbosh to put away his Caleb there. And then it says, Ovru Mabra, came to Mabra. Then it says, Gova Molin. Gova was a Molin Lano. It was a Molin for us, a place to sleep for us. And Chorda Haramos, give us Shol Nasa. Tzali Koilech Bas Galim, Hakshivi Lisha, or Laisha, it's read. Ania Anosais, Nodada Madmeina, Yeshvei Hagevim, Haizu. So if you counted over here, there's actually 12 different places that it says that he traveled and he came to. On his way, this is all on his way to Yerushalayim, coming to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, so now, then there's the next pasuk, and which Gemara will also talk about. It says, "Oida Yom Benoiv Lamed Yonef If Yodi Har Basi and Give us Yerushalayim." That's not one of the places that is counted in these 10 places. That's the Gemara is going to dash in that pasuk Oida Yom Benoiv soon. But the Gemara asks here on this, Hani Tuva Havyan. It's more than 10 places. Why are we saying 10? It's 12 places if you counted it. So the Gemara answers, no. When it says from the words Tzali Koilech Bas Galim, that the voice of Bas Galim should be happy, that's not a name of a place. Novi Hudika Amalol Knesset Yisrael. This is the Novi Yeshaya is telling the Yidden, and he's telling Yidden as follows: Tzali Koilech Bas Galim. Who's Bas Galim? Bitoy Shel Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. The Yidden that are referred to here as the daughter of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And why are they called? Why is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov called Galim? Waves. Because they fulfilled mitzvahs like the waves of the ocean that keep on coming. Then when the pasuk goes on to say Hakshiva Laisha, what does it mean Hakshiva Laisha? That's also not a name of a place. What it's saying is Mehai Loi Tistafi. From Sanhedrin you should not be afraid. Ella Istafim Nebuchadnezzar Rasha. You should be afraid from Nebuchadnezzar that will come later to destroy the first Beis HaMikdash. The Masal Ka'arya. And he is compared to a lion. The Gemara is soon going to say, Laisha. Laisha is this lion. Shanema, as it says, the lion comes from his place. This is the Nevuah that Yirmiyah says about Nebuchadnezzar. And then the continuation of the pasuk, and when it says Ania Anosais, that's also not a name of a place. Ania Anosais means something else. It means Asid Yirmiyah ben Chilkiah u'misna ba'allah me'anosais. Yirmiyah Hanavi is going to come, and he came from a place called Anosais, and he's going to say the nevuah about the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. The pasuk says Divrei Yirmiyah ben Chilkiah and Akayanim asher ba'anosais ba'aretz ben Yamin. Okay, so it comes out according to what the Gemara is saying here, that the psukim that we quoted that says the 10 places that Sanhedrin traveled, when it says Tzali Koilech Bas Galim, Akshiva Laisha, Ania Anosais, these are not names of places. So now based on this, the Gemara asks, okay, well, first actually the Gemara clarifies regarding to what it just said, that when it says Akshiva Laisha, what it's saying is, listen to me, what I'm telling you, that don't be afraid of Sanhedrin, you should be afraid of who? Of Laisha. Laisha is a lion. Who's the lion? Of Nebuchadnezzar. But the Gemara asks, Laisha means a lion, what does this mean? Midami, Hasam Ari. Regarding Nebuchadnezzar, it says that he's a lion. Hacha Layish. Here it says there's a Layish. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, Layish is a lion. Shisha, Shemes, Yesh, La'ari. We find in Psukim that a lion is called with 6 different names. In Elohim, and here brings from different psukim and different places in Tanakh. Ari, Kfir, Lavi, Layish, Shachal, Shachatz. And therefore when it says Laisha, it means a lion. Okay, but now based on this, the Gemara asks, if we take out these 3 places, when you counted it, it was 12. 12 different places it says in the pasuk. But now we're taking out 3 of the places. We're taking out what it says Bas Galim, we're taking out Laisha, and we're taking out Anosais. So that's only left with 9 places. So it's less than 10 places. It's only 9 places that he traveled. And says the Gemara, Ovru Mabra Tarti Nino. When it says Ovru Mabra, it simply sounds like it's saying he passed through the place of Mabra, but no, Ovru is one place and Mabra is another place. And therefore there are still the 10 places that he was. But then the pasuk goes on to say that Oid Hayom B'Noiv Lamed. Now that Oid Hayom B'Noiv is not another place. So what is this pasuk talking about when it says Oid Hayom B'Noiv? This is actually the beginning of the Haftarah that we say on Achron Shel Pesach. So Ma Oid Hayom B'Noiv Lamed, what does it mean that he came on that day? In Noiv, to stand there, Amar Rav Huna said, Oisei Hayom, it was on that day, Nishtayer Ma'avoyna Shel Noiv. There was the remnant of the Aveda that happened in the city of Noiv. What's the story with the city of Noiv? So we learned it before over here in this Masechta. The story of the city of Noiv was that it was a city of Kayanim. And David HaMelech came there to that city when he was running away from Shaul HaMelech. And David sort of deceived the Kayanim in that city. And he told them that I'm here and I have people with me. And Shaul HaMelech sent me here. And they gave him to eat. They gave him to eat. And then Doeg, which was one of the advisors of Shaul HaMelech, saw this. And saw that the people of Noiv are supporting Shaul, even supporting David, that is, even though he's running away from Shaul. And he reported this to Shaul HaMelech, and then Shaul told Doeg to kill out the Kainim of that city. Because they were moeded b'malchus, correct. So that was the Aveda that we're talking about in the city of Noiv, and we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to say, besides Shaul and Doeg that sinned, that they wiped out, they killed out the Kainim in the city, David HaMelech himself also has a certain part of this Aveda, because he ultimately caused this to happen, indirectly. And therefore, what the Gemara here is saying is that on that day, when Sanhedrin came here to destroy the city of Yerushalayim, that day was the last day where there was a remnant of that Aveda. After this day, the Kapara was complete. But this was the last day that Sanhedrin had a chance to take advantage to come and destroy the Beis HaMikdash. That's what it's saying. This was the last day that there was a remnant from the Aveda of this story of the killing of the city of Kainim of Noiv. And Amri Le Kaldoi, the stargazers or the astrologers told Sanhedrin, if you'll go now, you'll be able to destroy the city of Yerushalayim. If you're going to delay, you're not going to go now, you won't have the ability, because then the kapara for this Aveda is complete. So Orche, what happened was, this was a way, the boilis agoya ba'asara yoyme, that it would take 10 days to travel, to come to Yerushalayim, saga b'chad yoyme. He traveled and he went in 1 day. He wanted to make it on time to come on that day to Yerushalayim. When he came to the city of Yerushalayim, so he wanted to see the city. Shadulei bistraki, they put mattresses, that they sort of created this stage for him. Ad salik v'yasiv mi'eloi, Shura, until he was able to go up on it, and he sat on it, and he was able to see over the wall of the city of Yerushalayim. Ad chazil kul Yerushalayim, and Sanhedrin was able to see the entire city. Ki chazye, when he saw the whole city of Yerushalayim, izuta beinei, the city of Yerushalayim seemed to be just very small in his eyes. So Amar Sanhedrin said, Halidahi karted Yerushalayim. This is the city of Yerushalayim, the Allah, Argishes, Kol Masher Yasi, that I gathered all of my army, Va'Allah, Kavishas Kol Medinta, and I conquered many different countries and cities on my way here. Halahizire v'chalasha. Mikol krachi amamai the kafshes b'tkoif yadi. This is smaller and weaker than all the other cities and countries that I conquered with the strength, with the might of my hand. So Allah v'kom Umanad Bereishe, he got up and he shook with his head. Moivul Amaisi biyodei, and he also waved with his hand. Al Tur Beis Makdasha the Betzion on the Beis HaMikdash, which is in Tzion in Yerushalayim. Val Ezra said in Yerushalayim, and on the Azar of Yerushalayim. So he sort of waved with his head and his hands, and he said, "Nah, it's not a big deal." So Amri Nishti Beyada Ha'edna. However, the people in his army said, let's go and conquer the city of Yerushalayim right now. So Amalahu, he said to his army, Tamisu, you're already very weak and tired from the whole way that we traveled there. They went in 1 day. They went a way of 10 days, and they rushed, and we're tired now. Lamachar, and tomorrow we'll conquer the city of Yerushalayim. And he says, what are we going to do tomorrow? He says, it's so easy to conquer the city. Tomorrow, if I just send each one of my soldiers, and they each one can bring me one brick of the wall of the city of Yerushalayim. Rashi says, golme is a word that's actually in Persian. just one little portion of hedek, of a weak portion of the wall of the city of Yerushalayim, we'll be able to destroy the whole city that way. It's not going to be difficult to do this. Yeah, so again, golme hedek mineh, to bring me a little bit from the city, from the wall of the city, and we'll be able to destroy the city. So he delayed it. And miyad, what happened immediately? Vayihi ba'laylahu, and that night, vayetze malach Hashem. Malach Hashem came down, vayach ba'machna Ashur, and he hit the people of the camp of Ashur, of Sanhedrin, meya ushmenu chamisha aleph. There were 185,000, and they all died. V'yashkima ba'bayker, and the ones that were left over got up in the morning. V'hinei kulam pagara mesim, and they're all dead. Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, Haine damri inchi. This is what people say, that bas dina, batal dina. You let the judgment overnight, so the judgment gets batal. Once you delay it, so then it gets batal. So over here, there was the din, there was the judgment that was supposed to be for the Haveda of the city of Noiv, and that was the last day. They left it overnight, and now the judgment was batal, and Sanhedrin and his whole army were destroyed, and they couldn't conquer the city of Yerushalayim. Now, because the Gemara brought this in over here, about the city of Noiv, Ir HaKainim, which, as I mentioned before, that to some degree David HaMelech had a portion in what ended up happening there. So the Gemara makes an interruption here with the story of Sanhedrin, and it talks about what happened with David HaMelech. And then we'll get back to the story of Sanhedrin soon. So the Gemara now says, the Yishbi b'Noiv, Yishbi was in the city of Noiv. Now, who's this Yishbi? Yishbi was a brother of Goliath, and he was in the city of Noiv. Asher b'Yelidei Harpa. He was one of the children of Harpa. Harpa is Arpa, which was the sister of Rus. And both Goliath and Yishbi were the daughters, or the sons rather, of Arpa. Now, this Yishbi was a very mighty fellow, similar to Goliath. On Mishgal Kinai, Shloish Meis Mishgal Nachayshes. The weight of Kinai, Rashi says, just the blade of his sword or of his spear was the weight of 300 of Mishgal of Nachayshes. And he's wearing this brand new armor. And Vayomer Lahakay says David. And he was there in the city of Noiv, and he wanted to take revenge for his brother that was killed by David. He was looking to kill David. So the Gemara explains what happened here. Mai v'Yishbi b'Noiv. What is this pasuk telling us about Yishbi being in the city of Noiv? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Ish Shaba al Iskei Noiv. Yishbi is a combination of these words. That it's a man that came because of the story of Noiv, to bring the punishment on David HaMelech because of his involvement in what happened in the city of Noiv, that the Kainim got killed there. And here the Gemara says the discussion that was between the Eibishter and David HaMelech. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu David. Hashem says to David HaMelech, Ad Masai yeh oven zeh tomeh biyodcha. Until when will this Aveda be hidden in your hands? Al yodcha nerga Noiv ir HaKainim. Through you, the city of Noiv, the Kainim were killed in the city. And Vayatcha Nitra, Doeg Adoimig, Vayatcha Nerek Shol. It's because of you that it was caused that Doeg Adoimi was killed, and also Shol was killed, the Shloishes Banav, and 3 of his children. So therefore the Eibusha says, there's 2 options of a punishment that will come upon you. Either it's Tzeincha Yichle Zaracha, if you choose, then your descendants will be all killed. Or you yourself will be killed and given over to your enemy. So David HaMelech says to the Master of the world, Mutiv emse biyadoyev. It's better that I should be given over to my enemy, and my children should not be wiped out. So what happened? Yoim echad, one day, nofak lishkoir b'zoi. He went out. One pshat of Rashi is he went out to hunt. Another pshat of Rashi is he went out to this place, to this town has this name. As a Satan, so the Satan comes, v'idmi leketavya, and he appeared to David HaMelech like a deer. So pasuk bagira, David HaMelech threw an arrow at him, v'loy matye, and he didn't reach this deer. Mashchei, so now the deer was running away, and he drew David HaMelech after him, ad amte le'eretz plishtim, until David HaMelech ran and followed this deer until Eretz Plishtim. And there, when he came to Eretz Plishtim, K'dechazye, Yishbi b'Noiv, when Yishbi, that's going back to the pasuk before, when it says Yishbi b'Noiv, when Yishbi, the brother of Goliath, saw him, Amar, he said, This is David HaMelech, he's the one that killed Goliath, my brother. and he caught David HaMelech. Kofsei, Kamte, he tied him, he folded him, and Oisvei, Vishadye Tusebe Badya. He sat him down beneath the board of an olive press, and that's how he was going to kill him. What happened? Is Avid Le Nisa, a nes happened to David, that Mochale Aramituse, that the ground opened up below him, that when the board of the olive press went down, he had a space there to be able to be and to live. And Haine Dichsev, this is the pasuk where David HaMelech is thanking the Eibishter and singing and saying, Tarchiv Tzadi Tachtoi, that the Eibishter made a space for me below me, V'leimadu Karsulei, and he wasn't smashed over there. So that's so he was saved then. Now, that day when David was caught and captured by Yishbi, Apanya the Maila Shabbat Tahava. This was on a Friday, Erev Shabbos. Now Avishai ben Sruya, which was one of the servants or generals in David HaMelech's army, Havakachai V'Reishei, he was showering, he was washing himself on Erev Shabbos, B'Dalet Garbi Demaya, with 4 sa'ah of water. Chazinu Kismi Dama. He sees all of a sudden in the water that there's stains of blood in the water. And he was wondering what this is. What is this a sign of? Ikeda Amri, others say, Asayayne Itrif Kamei, that a dove came in front of him when it was banging his wings in front of him, while he was taking a shower on Erev Shabbos. So Avishai ben Sruya took this as a sign, and he said, Knesset Yisrael Yayne Imsila. The Yidden are compared to a dove. Shanem, as the pasuk says, Kanfe Yaina Nechba Bakesef, that the wings of a Yaina which are covered in silver, and this is a pasuk that says as a mashal on the Yidden in Tilim. So Shema Mina, he says it must be that David Malka di Yisrael B'tzar Shari, that David HaMelech is the king of the Yidden, that he's in pain somewhere. So Asal Beisei, he came to the palace of David HaMelech and V'lo he didn't find David HaMelech there. So Omar, now he wanted to go to run after to find where David HaMelech is. But how? How is he going to go find David HaMelech? He has to take a horse or an animal from David HaMelech himself to use. So Omar, he says to himself, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, this is earlier here in the Masechta, Ein reichvan al susay, ven yeshvan al kisay, you're not allowed to ride on the horse of a king, you're not allowed to sit on his throne, ven mishtamshim b'sharvita, you may not use his sharvit, his scepter, but b'shas asakana mai, if it's a time of danger, when he has to go save David, what's the halacha? Also, Shal Bey Medrasha, he asked a question in Beis Medrash, Amruleh, and they told him, b'shas asakana, shapir in the time of a danger, it's allowed. So Rachve leparde, he rode on a mule from David HaMelech, and v'kam v'azal v'koftzei leyara. He went and he had kvitzis haderech. Now, Bahadi the Kamazgi, when he was going on his way, Chaziela Arpa, Imei, he saw Arpa, the mother of Yishbi, the mother of Goliath, to have this novla, that she was sitting and weaving. Kachazi say, so she saw Avishai ben Sruya coming, Paskasa lepilcha shadyase elavei. She took out her spindle and she threw it at him. Savra lemiktale. She wanted to kill him with this. Amrale, and then she says to Avishai ben Sruya, Elem, young lad, Aisili palach, give me back my spindle. In other words, she was faking it. She was making believe as if it fell out of her hands. And give it back to me. So what did he do? Paske bereish moicha v'katla. He took it and threw it at her brain, at her head, and he killed her. Now then, Kadchazia Yishbi. So he came then over there to the place where Yishbi was, and Yishbi saw him. Benoiv. Omar, Yishbi said, Hashta have a betrein v'katlanli. Now there's two going to be against me, David and this Avishai ben Sruya, and they're going to kill me. So what did he do? Paske le David le'ela. He threw David HaMelech up into the air, and v'datzle l'rumche, and he stuck his spear into the ground, and Amar nepal Allah, David HaMelech will fall down on this, and v'nikdal, and he'll die. So when Avishai saw this, Amar Avishai Shem, Avishai said the holy name of the Eibishter, and Ukmel David ben Shmai Lara, and David HaMelech was there, suspended between heaven and earth. So the Gemara now asks on this detail of the story that Avishai is the one that said the Shem and saved David HaMelech. V'neimele iyu. Why didn't David HaMelech himself say Hashem? He could do the same and save his life. So the Gemara says no, he actually can't, because ein chavish moitzi atzma mibeis asurim. A prisoner cannot free himself from being in prison. And Rashi teaches there here, what this means is that because he's in prison, that he's in this situation, he doesn't have the right das, the right focus to be able to say the name of the Eibishter to save his life. Now, Amalei, so Avishai tells David, and according to the simple understanding of the Gemara here, this is all while David HaMelech is still suspended in midair. And he has a conversation with David about this. He tells him, my boy Yisachar, what are you doing here? How did you fall into the hands of this person Yishbi? Amalei, so David answers, Hachi Amalei Kutshe Berichu v'Hachi Adrelei. So he said over to Avishai the whole conversation that he had with Eibishter regarding the Aveda of Noivir HaKainim, and that he chose to be killed instead of his descendants being wiped out. And that's what happened to me. That's why I'm captured there. Amalei, so Avishai says to David, Apich Tzeloisech. You should turn over this judgment against you. Daven, turn over what you daven and said to the Eibishter that you should die and your children should live, your descendants should live. You should turn this. It should be the opposite. And he said, Bar Barach Kira Lisbon, your descendants, your grandsons should sell wax, meaning even if they fall to a very low level, but that's there. But you should not suffer. You should not die. So Amalei, so David agreed to him, and David said, help me, daven for me, that Hashem should turn over the Gzeira against me. And this is what the pasuk says, Avishai ben Tzruya helped him. It means he helped him here and to daven to the Eibishter to turn over the Gzeira that David HaMelech should live, and the Gzeira should be the opposite, that his descendants should be killed. Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav Shazar b'tefillah, means he helped him in davening. Now Amar Avishai Shem. So after this conversation with David, Avishai said another Shem of the Eibishter, and he lowered him down in a different place, not over there in that place on that spear that Yishbi put there, and he lowered him down in a different place. Now Avishai and David were going back to Eretz Yisrael. So Yishbi was chasing after them. So Kimati Kubi, when they came to this town of Kubi, which was a town that's by the border, coming back to Eretz Yisrael, Omri, so David and Avishai said, Kumbe, let's fight back this Yishbi, let's kill him. But they didn't yet. But then the Kimati Betrei, they came to a place called Trei. Omri, they said, Betrei Gurnyin Katlan La'aryeh, true young lions can kill this one big lion. So this Yishbi apparently was a very mighty fellow. So how are we going to kill him? So they did as follows. Omri lay, they turned around and they said to him, Zil ishtakach la'arpa imech bekivra. Go find your mother Arpa, which is buried. In other words, they told him now, Avishai told him that I killed your mother. Ki atkir l'shmadi imei, when he heard this and he heard the name of his mother, Kochash, that weakened him, Kochash chele, weakened his power, and v'kotle. And then they were able to kill him. And Haine d'chsiv, this is what the pasuk says, that Oz nishbu anshe David loy leimar. The men of David then swore and said, you will never go out with us in war again, and you won't extinguish the candle or the lamp of Yidden. In other words, over here, David HaMelech was exposed and he was captured. So they said that David HaMelech should never go out in war again, that this shouldn't happen to him. Okay, so now the Gemara here brings parenthetically another thing, because we mentioned before that Avishai had Kvitzas Haderech. It says, Tan Rabbanon Shloisha Kafts Lamaretz. There were three that had Kvitzas Haderech. Eliezer Eved Avram, V'Yaakov Avinu, V'Avishai ben Tzruya. Avishai ben Tzruya Hada Maran, the story over here that we just said, to save David HaMelech. Eliezer Eved Avram, D'chsiv V'Avay Ayoyim Ela'ayin. When Eliezer says, when he came to Charan, so he says, I arrived today. So Lememre, Dahu Yoyim Nafak. It was on that day that he left Eretz Yisrael, and it's on that day that he arrived. He had Kvitzas Haderech. And Yaakov Avinu, where do we see that he had Kvitzas Haderech? The pasuk says, Vayetze Yaakov in Beershava. He left Beershava, Vayelech Charana, and he went to Charan. And the understanding of this pasuk is that he arrived already in Charan. But then the pasuk says, Vayivga b'makom vayol sham, and he came to that place which is on Hara Miriah, and he davened there, as the Gemara will soon say, Kibar Shemesh, the sun came down. So what does this mean? Did he come to Charan, or was he in Hara Miriah? So the story is, Kimat l'Charan, when he arrived to Charan, Omar, he said, Efshir, is it possible? Avarti al-makom shespalalu b'avaisai. I passed through the place where my ancestors davened here, and vanilo yespalalti by, and I did not daven here. Boy lemeheder, he wanted to return. Kivin the hirir b'daita lemeheder. As soon as he had the thought to return, kaftzila are yad kvitzas haderech, and miyad vayivga b'makom. And that's why it says the term vayivga, that he came very quickly to the place. Now, another pshat in the words vayivga b'makom davar acher ein pigia el tefillah. The term pigia means that he davened there. Shenem bevata al tespalol ba'adam azev al tisa ba'adam rinov tefillah val tivga bi. Do not daven. So you see the word tivga means davening. Then there the pasuk says by Yaakov vayolen sham, that he slept there. Why? Kibar shemesh, because the sun came down. So So what it says over here is, why is the pasuk saying Vayolan Sham Ki Ba Hashem? It doesn't say that the sun came down and he went to sleep. What it's saying is Basa the Tzali, after he finished davening by Hara Maria, Boile Meheder. So he wanted to go back on his way. He wanted to return to go to Charan. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the Eibush just said, Tzadik Zeh Ba'la Ba'la Beis Malayni. This Tzadik comes to my place. Here, my hotel, my place here for him. You've put the Lina. He should leave without staying here overnight. Miyad Ba Shemesh. So the sun came down quicker. It was not yet time of night, but the sun came down for him to stay there. This is also what it means when it says in the pasuk later, after he came back from Charan, Vayizrach Lo Yashemesh, and the sun came and shined out for him. So it says Loy. The sun shines just for Yaakov. The sun shines for everybody. Rabbi Yitzchak says what it means is Shemesh Sheba Bavuroi Zarcha Bavuroi. This sun, the sun that went down earlier for him, when he was Mahara Maria, now it came, it shined for him extra, it stayed for him extra over here. And this time when he had to be healed after the story there, when he had the fight with the Sar of Esav. Okay, so this is what it brought here, but again, the Kfitzas Haderech. Now it comes back to the story of David HaMelech regarding the punishment for what he caused in the city of Noiv Ir HaKayanim. Now, so he exchanged the punishment. Instead of him being killed, so now the punishment is that his descendants are all going to be wiped out. So Minallah on the Kol Azari de David, where do we see that the descendants of David were killed? The Chsiv, the pasuk says, Va'asalya eim achazyo rasa kimeis bena va'tokam va'toivet es kol zara mamlocha. She got up and killed all of the descendants of the kingdom from David HaMelech. But on this, the Gemara asked, does it actually mean that all of the descendants of David HaMelech were killed? V'ha'eshtayle Yoyash. There was one that was left, and that's Yoyash, and he later became a king. So the Gemara says, you're right, Yoyash remained, and the reason is because Hasam Nami Ishtayer Avyasar, because by the city of the Kainim that were all killed, there was also one that was left, and that's Avyasar, that was a Kain. Ben Echad la Achimelech, Ben Achituv, Ishmay Avyasar. Achimelech ben Achituv, he was the one that actually fed David HaMelech, and so one of his descendants, which was Avyasar, he stayed alive after they killed the city of Kainim. So just like over there was one that remained alive by David HaMelech as well, even though his descendants were all killed, but there was one that was left, and that's Yoyash.
They hid him away in the Kodesh.
Yeah, right. The whole story about it. So Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, so Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, El Male Nishtayer Avyasar Achimelech ben Achituv. If not for this, that by the city of the Noiv Ir HaKayanim there wasn't one left over, Avyasar, Lei Nishtayer Mizarish Shel David Tzara de Palit. So then the punishment would have been that all of the descendants of David there would be no remnant. But because there was one left there, so here as well, Yoyash was left, and that from him came all the descendants of David HaMelech. Some actually say that the Einish was specifically his descendants that came from his son Shlomo HaMelech. But there are other descendants that are not from Shlomo. But here we're talking specifically about the descendants from Shlomo, and the only descendant from there is Yoyash. And now we come back to the story of Sanhedrin. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, so Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Bo Aleim Sanhedrin v'Rasha. Sanhedrin, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he came by Boim v'Chamisha Elafish, B'nai Melachim. He came with 45,000 of B'nai Melachim that were Yoshvim B'Krainis Shel Zahav, that were sitting in golden carriages, V'imam Shegloinais v'Zainais, and they came with their wives and with Zainis as well. Ubishwainim Elav Gibaitim, and with 80,000 mighty men, Levushin Syria and Klippa, that were dressed in this armor. Ubishishim Elav Achurev Chuze Cherev, Ratzim Lofanav, and 60,000 men with swords that were running in front, and Vashar Parashim, and the rest were all horse riders. And v'chein, similar to what it says here, also Baal Avraham. When Avram went to fight then, to save his cousin Lot, so over there as well, when Avram fought with the 4 kings, they also came with this amount of people. And v'chein Asidin Lavai in Goyig or Magog. By the Mulchama of Goyig and Magog, it will also be with the same amount. Masnita Tanan, a Braise, it says, describing how large the army of Sanhedrin was, Oirech Machneu, the length of his Machne is Arba Meis Parsi Rochov. Arba Meis Parsi, that is. The length of his Machne was 400 Parsa. Another way to measure this, how large his camp was, Reichev Tzaver Susov, if you line up all the horses that he came with, and you line them up together, and you measure the width of the neck of these horses, it's Arbaim Parsi. It's a width of 40 Parsa. Now, Sach Machneu, the amount of people that were in his camp, was Masayim Vishishim Riboy Alofim Chosachad. So this is, if I understand this correctly, this is 2.6 billion people. Did I get that right? Is that the number they have there? Yeah, 2.6. 2.6 billion people. Chas echad, -1.
What's a parsa?
Okay, so, some say that this is an exaggeration. How much a parsa is? I have the exact. How they have over there what a parsa is. Okay, I don't have the measurement enough for a parsa. Okay, but now the Gemara here says what's this chas echad when it says -1? Boy Abaye. So Abaye asks about this.
1,000 miles.
It's 1,000 miles is a parsa. Okay, so you can imagine how massive this is. So Abaye asks chas echad when it says -1. Does it mean chas echad riboy? It's -1 of the 10,000, or chas echad alpha, it means -1,000, or chaser meyet, does it mean -100, or chas echad, or it just means -1. Teiku, and the Gemara does not answer this. But that's how large the army was. Now, Tane, so we learned about this, that when they came to cross into Eretz Yisrael, they had to cross the Yarden, a river. So the Rishayim, the first group that crossed, Avru b'Shechi, they had to swim. They had to come through to Yehuda, so they had to swim. Shataf, they were washed out in the water, they were swimming through. And Tzayim, the middle group that came through, Avru b'Kaima, they already didn't have to swim. The water was shallow, they were able to walk through, and the water came up to their necks. Shanema, the pasuk says, Atzava Yagia, the water came up to their neck. Achrayim, the last group that came through, Helo Afa B'Ragleim, there was no water left, because so many soldiers passed through that they dried up the Yarden River. The last one that came through, there was just earth by their feet. And there was no water they had to drink there. They had to bring water from another place, V'Shasu, and they drank. Shanema, the pasuk says, Ani Karti V'Shasisi Mayim Gaim. They had to dig and find water. Okay, now the Gemara asks on this massive amount, this huge number that was said here, but Vaksiv, we had before already quoted, the pasuk says, Vayetze Malach Hashem, Vayakev Amachna Ashur, and he killed all the camp of Ashur, and what was the number? Meya Ushmainim V'Chamishim Elef. So this is 185,000 it says. And then Vayashkim B'Babayk, V'Yine Kulim Pegara Mesim, they're all dead, so it says a much smaller amount. Amar Rabavo, so Rabavo answers, Halalu Rashi Gais is saying, the number that's mentioned here, they were just the general, the heads of the army, but the army itself was much larger. Amar Ravashi, and Ravashi says, Deikanami, I'll prove this, T'chsiv b'mashmanov rozain, that in the fat ones, they will be thin. What does this mean? B'shmeinim the ispuhu. That Hashem killed the fat ones, meaning the generals of the armies who Hashem killed, that Malach killed. And the rest also ran away. Ravina says also, I'll prove this to you. The pasuk says, "V'yishlach Hashem malach." Hashem sends a malach. V'yikached kol giber chayil v'nogid b'sar b'machne v'kaimer. V'yavi beisel akov u'maitziav meyov sham hipilu b'cherev shmamino. So it says, what does it say in the pasuk? It says the giber chayil and the sar b'machne, meaning that the generals and the mighty ones, those are the ones that were killed, and the rest they ran away. Okay, so this is the story about Sanhedrin and the downfall of Sanhedrin. When I hear the Gemara says, how did the Malach come and kill them? With what did he hit them? How did they die? So there's a few opinions here. Rav Eliezer says, Biyad hikom, with a hand. Shenemar, the pasuk says by Kriyas Yamsuf, Vayay Yisrael asayod ha'gedola. They saw the Eibishter's great hand. It says Hayad. Why does it say Hayad with a hey? Hayad, the very same hand, Shasida liparem Sanhedrin, that in the future will also punish and kill the army of Sanhedrin. They were hit with a finger. What is this term of etzba? He etzba shesidul leparim es Sanhedrin. It's the same finger that will also punish the army of Sanhedrin. The Eibusha says to Gavriel, Maglach netusha, your sickle, is it sharpened? It's sharpened already from the time of creation. And this refers to this sword. The pasuk there says it's the sword that, or the sickle that he has that's sharpened from Sheshis Mebreshis. Rav Shimon ben Yechi says, that time period was the time when the fruits or the produce ripens in the field, and that's when the Malach comes down to ripen the fruits with a sickle. The Eibusha tells Gavriel, you're going down to bring the ripening of the fruits. Go tend to them as well to kill the army of Sanhedrin. Shanema, as it says, Midei Avroi Yukach Itchem Ki Baboike Yaver Bayoyim Balayla Vahoyer Agzva Haven Shmua V'Gaimer. That when you pass through, so the pasuk over here is saying that he was really passing through to another place. And then on his way there will be a zva, which means that he'll come and wipe out the whole army of Sanhedrin. That's what we learn out from this pasuk. So Amar Rav Papa says, based on this, this is what people say, if you're going on your way, so on your way, appear, show yourself to your enemy and scare him off as well. And that's what happened here on his way to go to do his job regarding the produce in the field. Another opinion regarding how the army of Sanhedrin died. Hashem blew into their noses a spirit that killed them. Shenema, as the pasuk says, "V'gam nashaf behem." Hashem blew into them vayevoshu, and they dried up. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, "Kapayim sipek lem." Hashem claps his hands, and that how they died. Shenema, as the pasuk says, "V'gam ani akke kapi al kapi v'ani choisi chamasi." I will clap my hands and bring my anger upon them. Rav Yitzchak Navcha Amar, Rav Yitzchak Navcha says, "Oznayim gilo lehem." Hashem opened up their ears, v'shamu shira mipichayos, and they heard the song of the singing of the malachim, and that's how they died. Shenema mirai mimascha nefaitzu goyim. From the malachim that were praising Hashem, that's how the goyim were all scattered. They died, and the others they ran away. Now, Gemara here concludes and says they didn't all die, because it says in the pasuk that after Hashem killed 185 of their generals, what does the pasuk say? That there were others that got up. So there were others that got up and saw the ones that are dead. How many were left from them, from these generals that got up and saw the others that died? Rav says Asara. There were 10 that were left. Shanem, as the pasuk says, Sha'ar eitz yarai mispar yiyu, that the leftovers from the ones that were there was a number. V'na yichteve. A young lad could write down this number. So what does it mean that a young lad could write down this number that there were left? Kama nar yochel lichtov asara. Even a young child, it means a young child that can't write a number. But which number could he write? He could write the number 10, which is a yud, just a dat, or like a yud. That's the amount that was left over. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says Tisha. There were 9 that were left. Shenema v'nisha by eilelus kenoikiv zayis, that they were left like these grapes, leftover grapes on a tree, and also kenoikiv zayis, like with the leftover from olives on a tree. And the pasuk says shnayim shloisha, 2 and 3, gargerim beroish omer, and then it says arba chamisha b'seifeha, on its branches. So the pasuk over here says that there was 4 and 5, and so together that's 9. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Yoma Arba Asar. There were 14 that were left over. Shenemar, pasuk says Shnayim Shloisha, and then it says Arba v'Chamisha. So together, this is 14. Right? Am I counting this right over here? Arba Asar, yeah. Rabbi Yechanan says Chamisha. There were only 5 that were left alive after the Malach killed them. Sancherev Ushnei Banov. Sancherev and his 2 children, and Nebuchadnezzar v'Nuvuzradon. Nebuchadnezzar, that later came to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, he was amongst them and he remained alive. And Nebuzradon, that was also the general of the army that came to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Now the Gemara says Nebuzradon Gemara. The fact that Nebuzradon was there and he was left alive, this is a tradition we have. Nebuchadnezzar, how do we know Nebuchadnezzar was there, part of the army of Sancherev? Because the pasuk says V'Rava Derivia Dami Lebar Dami Lebar Elohim. So what is this pasuk? We had this pasuk quoted before, and the pasuk here is saying regarding when Nebuchadnezzar threw Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah into the fire. So what happened? The pasuk says that he saw a malach. He saw a malach that came to save them. So how did he see a malach? How did he know to recognize a malach? So because if not, that he once saw a malach before, Sancherev would not recognize this malach that came to save Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah in the fire. So it must be, when did he see a malach? He saw the malach by the time when he was in the army of Sancherev, when the malach came to kill the rest of the army and the rest of the generals, and he survived. Ushnei Banov. And the 2 sons of Sancherev also survived. Sancherev, that is. Sancherev v'shnei Banov survived. The Chsiv, there's a pasuk says, Vayihu mishtachve beis Nasrach Elokov, and V'adra Melech v'Sharatzer Banov hiku b'charev. His 2 sons then killed him. So we see that his 2 sons survived together with him.